What's up, everyone? Welcome back to some more MLB The Show 17 Brewers franchise. It has been quite a long time since I posted this, and basically the reason that I stopped posting to this channel was I just lost the motivation. The games have been really disappointing this year. I didn't think Madden was all that spectacular. It really faded for me as the year went on. NBA was a monumental disappointment, and then this game was alright, but had its fair share of problems that I really just wasn't a big fan of dealing with. And I just, for the first time in a while, decided that I didn't really want to do anything for this channel anymore. But I started playing this game again the other day. I picked it up and I had a lot of fun with it. It definitely plays a lot different than it did before. To me, it feels a lot more smooth. So I'm going to be posting at least once in a while on this channel, probably 2-3 times a week, I would imagine at this point. I'm going to do 2 or 3 videos here in a couple days, just to kind of get back into the rhythm of doing it, because I just, like, there's so much I have to remember how to do. But at least for now, I'm going to be back, and I'm going to be back with Madden 2 when that comes out. So let's go over the mid-season All-Star break stuff that we have to go over. So you just saw on your screen the Futures game, and now we are going to take a look at the All-Star game members. Eric Thames was the only representative for the Brewers, but it was a pretty star-studded All-Star game overall. A lot of the big names that you're used to seeing there, you see Betts, Trout, Nelson Cruz, Manny Machado, some new guys like George Springer and DJ LeMahieu on the other side, but still you got Votto and Posey on the West, or the NL, excuse me. I'm so out of it, I guess. So, but a pretty run-of-the-mill All-Star game, big names, guys who you wouldn't necessarily expect to have big years, guys who probably shouldn't be in the All-Star game at all, but are because it's MLB The Show, and then guys who are just having insane years like Mark Melancon. Anyway, you can see Jason Hayward, surprisingly, is an All-Star. There's names there that you wouldn't expect, names there you would expect. It's a pretty run-of-the-mill All-Star game, nothing really all that major going on. As you can see, pretty much everyone is fairly deserving of their All-Star spot, and if nothing else, it's just because they needed a team representative. One small move we are going to be making at the time of the All-Star game is signing relief pitcher Jordan Walden out of free agency, and we are going to be giving him a club option for a second year. I believe we upped this to $9 million. Yes, we're going to up this to $9 million. We're going to give him a club option for the second year so we can bring him back if he does perform very well, and we can potentially either keep him for next year if we're contending or trade him at next year's trade deadline. And on your screen right now in the background, you're going to see a lot of the player stats for this year. Keon Broxton, surprisingly, is leading our team in all 3 of the average OBP and slugging categories. But Eric Thames has definitely been the one carrying our offense all year. Ryan Braun having a pretty solid year. And as you can see, the top of the WAR leaderboard is pretty much as expected, although Ryan Braun's been worth less than 1 win this year. I imagine mostly that's due to defense. Junior Guerra has been carrying the load as our ace this year. Matt Garza came up, as I believe I showed in a recent episode where he faced the Diamondbacks. He hasn't been doing the hottest this year, but Junior Guerra and some other guys have been having pretty decent seasons. Jimmy Nelson, I've actually thought, is doing pretty well considering the situation, but our bullpen has just been really weak. We have not had any good relievers at all this season, which is part of the reason that we signed Jordan Walden. And Neftali Feliz has been terrible closing. We put Corey Nebel in that spot instead, but he hasn't really been doing the greatest either. As you can see, nobody really at all having a great year in terms of FIP or ERA or anything like that. We are also currently sitting with the second worst record in the league, but it is not looking like we're going to catch the Padres for the worst, fortunately enough. However, despite having the second worst record in the league, the team is actually pretty decent at some things. For instance, they have 30 more stolen bases than any other team in the league and already have top triple digits, with Jonathan Villar and Hernan Perez combining for over half of that total just by themselves, and Ryan Braun sneakily having a pretty good season running the bases with 11 to his name. The Brewers have also done a really good job of drawing walks this season, as they are sitting just outside the top 5 in overall standings for that category. However, also funnily enough, the Brewers are the team that strikes out the most in the entire league as well. Quickly, we'll take a look around baseball. Starting in the National League East, as you have the Nationals on top with a 1.5 game lead over the Mets and a 4.5 game lead over the Phillies, but that's a situation to definitely monitor as the season goes on, as I can see any of those 3 teams making it. The Brewers sitting in last place, and the Cubs have a 13.5 game lead on the second place Pirates, who are 9 games under 500, so this division is looking pretty close to wrapped up this year. The National League West, the Dodgers are sitting with a 2-to-1 win-to-loss ratio. The Giants in second place, though, looking like a wild card lock, as they are 14 games over 500, but 8.5 out of the division. the wild card. Mets on top, Giants in second place. AL East, we're going to now the Red Sox and Blue Jays are actually tied for first place. The Blue Jays having one less win and one less loss with 2 less games played. And the Orioles and Yankees both sitting over 500 too, and definite threats in the wild card standings. The Indians, I believe, have the best record in the league. They have a 19.5 game lead over the second place Tigers, and this is just a real division of bottom feeders right here. And then in the West, you got the Angels with a 7.5 game lead over the Mariners, about 20 games over 500. The Mariners looking like a team that could maybe make the wild card run though, and the Astros sitting under 500 as they are disappointing once again. We'll speed this part up a little bit so you guys can just take a look at people who are leading specific categories around the league. Take a pause if there's any category that you are particularly interested in. A lot of the usual offenders, but there's also weird guys at the top of a lot of these lists. I'll just cut out while this goes through, and then it'll come back when there is more to discuss. Alright, back to Brewers news, and we got a couple of trades as the trade deadline has come and gone, but first we are going to discuss the signing that the Brewers just made in anticipation of trading some of their outfield depth. They went and signed Nate McLouth out of free agency. McLouth is a solid left-handed bat, pretty decent fielder, has decent speed, and can hit righties very well, so he will definitely fill an important role on the Brewers bench as a good outfield option. And we have some breaking news in the way of the trade deadline as the Brewers have made 2 moves right ahead of the actual deadline itself. First is going to be acquiring Chris Tillman. They are going to be able to shed Matt Garza's contract in this deal as he's an expiring deal and hasn't been the greatest for the Brewers in his brief stint this season. Chris Tillman has not played for the Orioles so far this year. He's been sitting in their Double-A team. Anthony Gose and Jared Hughes are also going to be thrown into this deal. Anthony Gose can be a solid outfield option for the Orioles as they make a run at the postseason potentially, and Jared Hughes can be a solid depth reliever for them. And the big trade of the deadline for the Brewers came with the Los Angeles Angels. They gave up Junior Guerra, Jet Bandy, and Willie Peralta, and in exchange received Andrew Heaney and Mike Morin. The Angels were in need of starters going into a stretch run, leading the AL West by many games, not really worried about their playoff spot, but hoping for a bolster going in, as Junior Guerra has pitched like an ace this year, and Willie Peralta has actually been very solid himself. In exchange, the Brewers are going to be receiving once top prospect for the Miami Marlins, Andrew Heaney, who has not pitched for the Angels this year. He has been on their AAA squad, as well as the right-handed reliever Mike Morin. Much like Heaney, Mike Morin has not pitched for the Angels this season and would make much more use on the Brewers, where he would get a roster spot and a chance to prove himself and see if he can be an asset for the team going forward in a very weak bullpen. So let me know down below what you guys think of these trades. Were they smart moves on the Brewers' part in a very barren market? Could they have gotten more? Are there some other pieces you would like to see them trade that they held on to? Let us know your thoughts down below. And that is going to wrap up this episode of the Brewers franchise, actually. Next episode, we will be returning with more gameplay, as I have 3 more gameplay episodes planned for the season, as well as a prospect spotlight to end the AAA season when that ends, and a end of the year recap. So 5 more episodes planned for this season. Hopefully we can get that done by the end of August, or even better goal by the time Madden comes out. I'm not anticipating uploading a whole lot, but still should be able to get 5 episodes done in 3 weeks. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for more Milwaukee Brewers franchise, and the channel is back. Stay tuned.